And the Lord spake, saying, First shalt thou take out the holy pin, then shalt thou count to 3, no more, no less. 3 shall be the number thou shalt count, and the number of the counting shall be 3. 4 shalt thou not count, neither count thou 2, excepting that thou then proceed to 3. 5 is right out. Once the number 3, being the third number, be reached, then lobbest thy holy hand grenade of Antioch towards thy foe, who being naughty in my sight, shall snuff it.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, 1, 2, 5.
Cheat code, sir.
Cheat codes. It's July 28, 2016. Welcome to episode 105 of the Cheat Codes Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We're always glad to have you with us. The next hour is us drinking a few beers and going over our favorite bits from the past week in video game and tech and pop culture news. My name is Joe Erskine. I am your host, and we're coming to you from Camelot, where we like to push prams a lot and or use clapping coconuts instead of horses when we're not trying to wash the smell of elderberries off of ourselves. Today I'm here with Cheat Codes contest organizer Mr. Nick Galahad-Golish.
Hey, how's it going?
Cheat Codes community manager Mr. Chris Brave Sir Robin Morris.
Hello.
And we're honored to welcome StarCraft Universe dev Mr. Ryan the Holy Grail Winzen.
Hello.
Thanks for being here, man. Today on the show, we'll chop the lens off the Black Knight to sort out the following bits. We're going to talk about when too much choice in games is a bad thing. We're going to talk about what happens when your mom's becomes a moderator on your Twitch stream. And what if there was a game that helped fight off dementia? And for today's lightning round, we'll chuck the holy grenade of Antioch at a bunny to explain the following bits. Stranger Things uses D&D to great effect. And what was the best game from the year that you were born? We'll answer all these questions and more on today's episode. Ryan, welcome to the show, sir. So glad to have you with us. Tell us what's you're working on, what's going on, or what's just on your mind. You have the floor here, sir. Go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. So I made Pokemon Go in my basement in like 3 days. I just exploded.
No wonder it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, I'm not even a programmer. I just do foundations for a living. No, just kidding. I am the creative director, if you will, on StarCraft Universe, which is a custom game for the StarCraft 2 arcade. We've received quite a bit of media attention lately, and things are pretty fucking surreal right now. Can I cuss on this show?
Yeah. We insist.
Okay. Excellent.
So, when you mean surreal, can you elaborate a little bit, or are your lawyers going to need to get involved? Like, what's the deal?
Oh no, we're past that.
Okay.
They're already involved.
It's just crazy, how big this idea has gotten in people's heads, and how many people have responded positively to the idea of having a StarCraft MMO, even if it's not even being developed by Blizzard. We're just a really small group of guys, and seeing just the magnitude of responses it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
For those who don't know, can you give us like the elevator pitch for StarCraft Universe? I think it might be self-explanatory, but humor me.
Yeah, absolutely. So StarCraft Universe is basically a custom game for the StarCraft 2 arcade, like I said, and it combines the gameplay elements of WoW, Diablo, and FTL, interestingly enough, with the StarCraft setting. So we've basically taken, the game StarCraft 2, which normally it's an RTS, it's a top-down view. It plays, it's micro and macro management of a military force to pitting players against each other. We've taken that genre of game and we've completely transformed the way it plays.
All right.
Is this the same StarCraft Universe that was World of StarCraft way back when that got changed to StarCraft Universe?
It is, yeah.
I remember reading about this years ago, yeah.
Yeah, that was back in the day when I was prototyping it, and I was just calling it World of StarCraft, and we uploaded some gameplay demo video to YouTube. I was just trying to get some feedback from the SC2 Mapster game development community, and I guess it just kind of spread like wildfire on YouTube, and Blizzard's Blizzard's lawyers got a hold of it, and they thought I was developing a game outside of the StarCraft 2 engine using their intellectual property, and they said, "Oh no, you don't."
I'm sure they did. Yeah.
And then they figured out that you were using their editor, pretty much, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was just a little bit of miscommunication. So
Just a little bit.
If you before we move on though, can you comment on what Blizzard's response to your and your team's efforts have been?
Oh yeah, Blizzard's been since everybody's figured out what's going on. Blizzard has been overwhelmingly supportive of what we're doing. They've featured us on the arcade. They've pretty much given us the nod to run our Kickstarter that we did in 2013, and they've been very cool about the whole process.
Well, that's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah. It is. Blizzard's very cool about stuff as long as you're not trying to develop cheats for their games and sell them to people, or trying to, I guess, create, use their games and put them on servers outside of Battle.net.
Yeah, I was going to say legacy servers are a no-no, but yeah, otherwise you're good to go. Yeah, all right.
I remember when I first read about this years ago. Blizzard did seem pretty cool at the time. Like I said, it was just a name change. Didn't they just ask you to change it to StarCraft Universe because they're like, World of Warcraft or World of StarCraft, we may want to use that later? So,
yeah, pretty much. I threw some different names at them, and they were cool with StarCraft Universe. So,
okay.
So we went with that.
All right.
Nice.
So very quickly, let's talk about what we're washing the episode down with. Look, life on the road can get pretty tough. A French John Cleese is always hurling insults at us from parapets, not to mention cattle. But when we have a chance, we like to sit back with a beer and do a podcast, as you do. So that's what we're doing today. We're enjoying a few, the Flesh and Blood IPAs from the Dogfish Head Brewery, all the way out in Delaware. It's going down pretty easy. So it's good stuff. Where are you based out of, Ryan?
St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. All right. Gateway to the Midwest, baby. All right.
Absolutely.
Right on. Let's get to it, gentlemen. Are ready? Everybody ready?
Number one.
There you go.
Good to go.
Choice is always an interesting mechanic in games. Dialogue trees or even events that change the outcome of the story and determine one or of multiple endings or outcomes. It's a design plan, one that is usually implemented to empower the player with agency, illusory or otherwise, and sometimes it can simply be too much. It can overwhelm players. It can often force a choice and leave the players wondering what would have happened if they had chose differently. So let's dig a little deeper here. And as devs, we should be able to offer some insight here, I hope. We'll see. But is this, as a blanket statement, is too much choice a bad thing? Is it correct or not? Round table it. Nick.
True.
Chris.
Do you want me to actually give like a proper answer or just say true or false?
You can just keep it brief.
All right.
It sounds like he has a lot to say.
I know, and we're gonna get into it. I promise. You'll have plenty of time to expound on it.
Yes, I think too much choice is not necessarily a good thing.
Okay, and Ryan, what do you think, man? You're doing, essentially an MMO right now. Like that wraps up a bunch of choices to be made on almost like a, your game loop is almost infinite at that point, right? So
Right. I would say that too much choice is a bad thing without knowledge. I would say that you can have more choice the more knowledge the player has about what's actually going on. So you can kind of roll into more choice over time.
See, that's okay. That's great because now we're gonna narrow it down a little bit. That's excellent. Thank you. Do we have examples of games that exist right now where choice is a bad thing? Like too much of it? Yeah. We're playing the Elon Musk game of life because we're all just in a computer simulation and we're all it's just too much. It's all too much.
I would say that probably World of Warcraft has struggled with this quite a bit in more recent years. There's always kind of good posts on various forums about the choice paralysis that is caused to some players that play WoW and they don't have unlimited time to play anymore. They kind of get on, run around trying to figure out what they should do and what they have time to actually complete. And then by the time they sort of make a decision, they don't actually have time to go do any of those things anymore. So then they just log off and don't play the game, and then eventually maybe cancel their subscriptions. So that's a very interesting example, I think, where I think they've been trying to fix it, get people into more directed play.
Well, with that in mind, Ryan, what do you think, man? I mean, you're making an MMO that has a similar, like you said, mechanics of World of Warcraft, but in the StarCraft universe. Like, how are you approaching that problem?
Right. So basically, I approach that problem by introducing players to mechanics slowly, and then allowing them to branch off and start making more choices as the game progresses naturally. In terms of story, I guess you could say our story is fairly linear. In the beginning, we sort of have 3 prologues that you have to play through. But then as you get into our main game and you play through 2 different planets, you're going to go from planet to planet. Once you get to the second planet, you complete that, then our game kind of branches off into 3 different story arcs that you can go into and go on a different route of planets that you're going to jump to from one to the next. But you're always going to be able to, go back and do those other. I don't know if that's the right kind of choice that we're really talking about here. I think choices that you can backtrack on are different than choices that you can, continue to move forward with. When
you talk about backtracking on a choice, are you like kind of alluding to maybe like the way Mass Effect does its like Paragon system, where you can like make a bunch of like mean and ugly choices, but then kind of go back later and make like healthy and good natured decisions to kind of like change the way that slider skews, or are you talking about things that are irrevocably going to change the way the game is portrayed or played based on some event?
I'm talking about the dynamic the difference between the two. It's easier to make a game where you can backtrack on your choices and you can go back and redo in the same game instance. You can redo what you've done, as opposed to having to continue to go forward. Like in Chrono Trigger, for example, when you've made certain choices, you just have to roll with that. You can't redo them unless you go through the whole game again.
Right.
So,
okay.
I guess
so.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just. I was curious. Is this article assessing that kind of situation, or are they talking more about like sandbox games or World of Warcraft where there's just like too much to do, you have to choose what to do, or the consequence of making a choice that you can't go back and change, or is this all like an all-encompassing topic?
I think it tried to. It's actually kind of a short article, but I think it had some MMO that it was referencing kind of as an example, that it was as the jump-off point for a lot of the commentary within the article, but I kind of used it more about us just having a conversation about the larger umbrella question at large. And it's cool that we can kind of start narrowing it down and throwing out examples. And I was more interested in that dialogue specifically. But I think to answer your question, Nick, it's all fair game at this point. You know what I mean? So is it like a game like Until Dawn, where it's designed specifically to have this branching storyline and you make choices that you can't take back? You know what I mean? And it affects the way you play it, but it encourages you to play it again. You know what I mean? But at what point, like, where's the solvency in that? Where do you? I don't know. For people like me, like I enjoy playing Until Dawn. I'm not going to play it again. You know what I mean? Like
not once more.
Maybe I just don't have the time. I'm married. I got a kid. Like I can't do that shit. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I understand like where Ryan's coming from and talking about like from an MMO standpoint. It's like you need to eventually present a bunch of different decisions, but have them not be like irrevocable. You know what I mean? Like you can go work on something, or like train a skill, or like amass a resource because that's how you want to spend your time. But that's not going to necessarily take away from the rest of the game, because like eventually you can go off and do those other things when you're ready. You know what I mean? So
I don't know. It's hard to blanket that question over all the games.
It's very hard. Yeah, I agree.
A sandbox game, you have as many choices as you want, pretty much, and is that encompassing of this? Like it's almost like what Chris said, like there's so much to do. Do I really choose what I need to do, or do I just jump around?
Yeah, and some players have that paralysis when it comes down to it. Like I have too much to choose from. Like I don't know what to choose, so therefore I'm done. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to choose anything. I choose not to play effectively. You know what I mean? So
that's your choice.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what the best game was with choice, I think, and I've already said I think the best game ever when it came to choice was Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
And the reason that I think it was the best game with choice is because you didn't know you were choosing when you were choosing. In games like Mass Effect, when you're making a choice.
Yeah.
It's clearly presented to you. But in Chrono Trigger, you played through the game and you were organically and naturally making choices. And that was what really separated it from everything else, because you didn't even realize you had made a choice until you till you experience the consequences
Right.
of that choice.
Right.
Which is very similar to real life.
Speaking of like, I know I touched on kind of like the choice paralysis, but speaking more to like the actual choice that affects like the outcome of the narrative or something. I was playing Elder Scrolls Online with a friend, and they have some of these quests where you have to make a choice that affects the narrative. And what I think that's neat, especially in an MMO, because it makes it feel more dynamic. But what I actually don't like about it is that they alert you before you make that that final narrative changing decision that you're about to make a narrative changing decision, as if like, you know, you can just opt to not complete the quest altogether. You really have to choose like it's like a binary option, like, oh, this is gonna happen or that's gonna happen, and you don't really know like what the outcome is gonna be. Like, you may discover it later on. I mean, that part is interesting, but the part of them like warning you, I think, is completely unnecessary and actually like breaks the illusion of choice to begin with.
It takes you out of the experience a little bit.
Yeah, it breaks the immersion for sure.
Yeah, I liked Ryan's analogy with Chrono Trigger, because I remember they did the same thing in Chrono Cross, which I think I played more than Chrono Trigger.
Really?
Yeah, just because at the time I had it.
Sure.
But they did the same thing where like they didn't really tell you that you were making a choice, and you found out later that if you did this one thing differently, that you would have got this character instead of that character.
Okay.
And that was cool. But once I found out about it, also, then I also wanted to go back and do it again to like.
Would it have been better if they hadn't told you?
Well, no, they didn't tell me.
You found out later.
Okay,
got it.
Guides or something at the time.
I didn't play Chrono Cross, so got it. Okay, Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time. But and to your point, Ryan, too, I think why that worked a little bit and why you said it, like it's a little bit more like life in that regard. Like, I think it was also one of the first games where like choice actually kind of mattered, and that illusion was still fresh, like playing it at a young age. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, and
but it's interesting though that you said that you went back and you played it because you wanted to see what happened. Mm-hmm. So with that example, it was a good thing on the designers, from the designer's perspective, to actually do it that way, because it made you want to go back.
Yeah, I liked it, and it's funny because I didn't like the way Mass Effect or Knights of the Republic did it as much, because you knew you were making a choice.
You
at
just
the
don't
time.
like the way BioWare does it.
Yeah, well, those are the ones I can think of that had like that very distinct choice where like it's like, oh, the top choice is good, the bottom choice is bad, and the middle choice doesn't do anything for you, so don't choose it.
It doesn't shift my slider one way or the other. Yeah.
And when those games were coming out, a lot of games were trying to copy that, and I didn't really like that whole thing. I thought it like took away from the narrative, like Chris was mentioning. It takes you out of the immersion. I think it creates worse storytelling because it's not like a cohesive story. They have to like now handle like a branching situation.
Sure. Well, but to play devil's advocate a little bit here is when it comes to like narrative design in that regard, like aren't all these games kind of like an exploration in that fact? Everybody's trying to figure out how to make it work in a way that like makes it more immersive. Like, I'm not sure we've nailed it on the head yet, or anybody has to any extent yet, but like I feel like Until Dawn did a really good job with it. You know what I mean? Like, even by breaking some of the immersion sometimes, by letting you know that like, oh, your path went this way, and literally showing you a graphic of how it's changed. You know what I mean? But not necessarily being explicit in that regard. But when you talk about games like insert BioWare title here, yeah, I understand that it's like I feel like they're giving me choices here, but it doesn't necessarily matter what I choose, because it's still going to push me in a general direction of where it would have gone no matter what. You know what I mean? So
and Knights of the Republic is either like, oh, I either had like pale skin with like glowy eyes or something, or like I was this paragon of good. Like it didn't feel like a meaningful choice either. Like in Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross, it made a big impact on the game.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to shit on BioWare. I'm just saying like all this is kind of like emergent. Like, we haven't figured out how to do it right, at least from a narrative standpoint. Like, how to tell that story, offer illusory choices, and make them meaningful. Sometimes, like when you get things like Chrono Trigger, I think it's an excellent example, Ryan, where you get it feels very real, and it feels not real in the sense of like, holy crap, I'm experiencing this, but like in the sense that like this choice mattered. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So
yeah. And when we're talking about games like Mass Effect and Chrono Trigger versus a game like Knights of the Old Republic, it's interesting because you have to approach it completely differently when you're making different genres of game too. Because how do you make choices feel significant in an MMO as opposed to a single player game where you can change the game world and it can affect the environment and all these other things, but you can't change the game world in an MMO based on choice. Well, I guess you can. I guess like Rift kind of tried to do that stuff, but
sure.
You're definitely limited.
No, right on. So. All right, so too much choice is bad or good? Last round table before we move on to the next topic. Still yes for all around, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Or it depends on how you break it down, I guess.
It's good.
Yeah, too much choice is bad.
Too much choice is bad. Yeah. I can't say in sandbox games that I like. In sandbox games, I have a choice to do anything I want, and I play a lot of sandbox games. But I don't feel like I'm necessarily making a choice. I'm deciding to go do something, which is making a choice. But I'm just playing with the tools they gave me instead of like in an MMO where you have to choose what you want to do. It's not as sandboxy like World of Warcraft. It's a sandbox in a way, but it's offering me so much to choose from that it's hard to make a decision.
Sure. Brian, you want the last word here? Go ahead.
Yeah, until humans get smarter, too much choice is bad.
Nice.
That's a good way to wrap it up. All right. Let's see here.
Number 2.
So let's pretend you're a successful Twitch streamer, tons of viewers, making some money. It's fairly well known that with great power comes great trolls. One streamer's mom turned a somewhat strained relationship with her daughter into a full-time moderator position and got a crash course in what it was like for her daughter as a popular streamer. Rainbow Kids had a solid following. This is based on today's, I think, Kotaku article. Had a solid following, over 200,000 followers, and dealt with a lot of shit from, as the article states, ardent fans, horny dudes, and toxic trolls. Once again, the net rears its ugly head, and someone is trying to provide an outlet of entertainment has to deal with larger than normal volume of haters. People are fucking assholes. What are you going to do? What's cool about this article is that we got to kind of like watch this little snapshot of life and how what was a strained relationship between a daughter and a mother become much more interesting as the mother kind of like lurked on her Twitch stream after she kind of like got into it and then realized not only was the daughter really good at what she was doing and how she was like kind of dealing with trolls and haters, but how it actually like brought her into the mix and how she started interacting. The mom herself started interacting with the chat and ended up, the daughter kind of like figured it out and realized like, fuck this, I'm going to make mom a moderator. So hooray. It's a feel-good story. It is. And not for nothing, we need as many of these as possible, I think, in the gaming world. But, and it ended up bringing them kind of closer together. But I'm kind of curious, like, if you guys were going to like start Twitch streaming and your parents started lurking on your Twitch stream, how are you guys going to handle that?
Oh, God.
Oh man, that's
open floor question. Here. Jump in, anybody. Go ahead.
It feels like Ryan had something to say about it.
It sounded like that. Why don't you enlighten us, Ryan?
Oh, I don't know. I want to go next. I don't know how to answer this.
I could confidently say that my mom probably doesn't know what Twitch is. My dad
same
may know, but just from what he heard in the news or something, if there was something going on, like, oh, they're showing the internationals on Twitch this year or something, like he could have heard about it, but I don't think he's ever really sat down and used it before. So,
well, all right, but to this girl's credit is like basically like she was starting to get pretty like well known, right? So eventually, like when that starts to rub off, like whether or not she is on good communicating terms at this point with her mother, like the mother's like if she's paying any attention at all, understands that this is something that her child is doing. You know what I mean? So she's gonna be curious or take some interest, right?
I was just trying to like analyze like what my parents view on this
specifically
like,
your family. Yeah,
I don't know if they necessarily understand it either. I mean, I've tried to explain to them that I make video games, and they're like, "You do what?" That's
you're rotting your brain, Nick. Yeah, that kind of thing. No, fair enough. I what I liked about this was that the mom kind of like persevered. Like she kind of like got in and started lurking around the chat, and then figured out like, holy crap, people on the internet are assholes, but my daughter's doing a really good job of dealing with them. And then I'm going to kind of like follow her lead, and then that's how she ended up becoming like a moderator, because it was like I can be a mom and be defensive and want to protect my daughter from these assholes who want to say dumb shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can like what they figured out and kind of like the message, or one of the messages of the article was kind of like, humor in the end wins. You know what I mean? It's the best way to deal with this. You know what I mean? And it's kind of true. But like I think patience is really the real answer. But at the same time,
How old is the daughter? I'm just curious.
I think she's post college at this point. I think, and I think for the record, I think she's actually stopped streaming as of a couple months ago. She's focusing on, I think, being a pro gamer, like doing the League of Legends route. And she's apparently very good. So, good on her.
Not get banned from Twitch?
No, the guy that featured her got banned because he started being a dick.
Okay.
At least that's what I remember from the article. So.
I imagine
so she just kind of segued into League of Legends, both because she's good at it and also had like a large following already.
Yeah, but I don't think she's an active streamer anymore. But but by the time she exited, like she had like I said, a couple 100,000 followers and was doing pretty well for herself as far as the streamers go. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I would imagine this would be kind of scary for a parent to see like their daughter on as a streamer. Like, I wonder if it's the same thing that like parents of celebrities have to deal with in a way. Like it probably is. I mean, these guys are celebrities, but they get in this chat audience, and like half the people are like, "Oh, show me your boobs" and stuff, and
right.
And they're like, "This is what you're exposing yourself to every day." I feel like it would cause a huge strain on the relationship unless the mom got actively involved in it, which it sounds like she did. And
but she didn't go in there and be like, shut up, don't talk about my daughter that way. It was more like, I now I'm a moderator. It's kind of like you can say all the dumb shit you want, but we're gonna make it seem like it's not affecting us, and they did a good job of doing that. You know what I mean?
And how old's the mom? The mom, I guess
50s, I think.
50s, okay.
Yeah, so I think daughter's like mid-20s, that kind of thing. But I mean, it's cool that it kind of repaired their relationship. But go ahead. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, my dad would just be the one trolling me and being
Nice.
No, let me illustrate to you how my dad is. When I was 13 years old, I remember I was on the beach in Florida and I was playing volleyball with all these cute girls, and my dad walks up and he goes, "Hit the ball, pumpkin."
Oh.
Yeah, this is my dad.
Nice.
He's the biggest troll in the world, so I don't think I would want him to be.
So he was trying to wingman for you, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. It sounds like the latest iteration on the vacation movies, like when the kid is sitting out by the fountain with his daughter, and the dad comes up and basically just ruins it for him. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I love my dad, but I have a feeling, just to bust my balls, he'd come over and be like, "Hey, I got the cream for your rash. Can you come over here a second? We'll put it on while you're playing volleyball with a bunch of these girls. It's fine." You know what I mean? But,
Did you
it depends on where the rash is, though.
well, if I'm only wearing a bathing suit on the beach, like, it's pretty obvious at that point. So
Sure. I suppose that's true.
Yeah, but I don't know.
herpes taken care of.
Go ahead. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
I was just saying, did you get your herpes taken care of?
I got your hepatitis shot right here, buddy. You know what I mean? Like,
Hey, I
come on
have
over.
your condoms. Make sure you use them.
It's a shame. But ultimately, like, what it came down to is that this was a cool story, because it actually kind of like helped them start communicating after a pained adolescence / late teens, early 20s, going away to college, kind of like not talking to each other kind of thing, and it helped the mom identify like these positive kind of like secluded but outrovert qualities about her daughter and how she dealt with these dicks. But it's also worth noting too that there's like a bunch of like faithful audience too that she like cultivated, and that was kind of a cool thing for the mom to watch, that we're not necessarily trolls and assholes, and that we're just enjoying her streams, and that's kind of a cool thing too. So I don't know.
I mean,
are you guys like big Twitch guys? Like, do you guys have like people that you follow, like quote unquote like booby streamers, like the article or the trolls were calling her, I guess? Like, do you guys do that?
So,
like not troll, but like follow streamers like that?
I watch a couple, but I mean, we've talked to like Eddie Monster and who else did we talk to? Why am I blanking right now?
Oh, Blade Beely and
yeah. So I mean, I know they all work like really, really hard, and I'm sure that she actually, regardless of this like label that she has as a booby streamer, like I'm sure she actually put a tremendous amount of like time and effort into cultivating her audience and being able to make a living off of it. And so, to a certain extent, it almost it's like any other entertainer or like a stand-up comedian almost with hecklers, right? I think that's probably like the closest analog that I can think of, where
It's a good one.
Sort of
yeah.
comes with the territory. So you got to have thick skin, and if you enjoy doing it enough, you just figure out how to deal with it. And some are better than others at actually making it work.
No, fair enough. I think that's true. Ryan, have you been giving like any early builds or like any demos out to streamers? Like, have people like broadcast any of your work, and have you been like getting reactions or anything like that?
Yeah, there have been quite a few StarCraft a couple pro players I think have been playing SCU and streaming that. And I'm not honestly not big into Twitch. I kind of a little older for that. I
Me
guess.
too. I'm 35, man. I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that.
But yeah, our programmer, he's a few years younger than me, and he watches all those streams and stuff. And I know those people have to deal with quite a bit. I mean, it's basically you're on stage, you're on stage in front of a bunch of people who can heckle you and say whatever the hell they want. And you have absolutely no control over that situation like you would at a comedy show or whatever. So hats off to her and her mom, and glad they bridged their gap.
No, for sure. I imagine, like, when I was reading this article, I had that thought, like, very similar to kind of the point you're making. It's like, imagine if like Broadway shows had like a comment section while the show was going on. You know what I mean? Like, how fucked up that would be. You know what I mean? So, but you're right. I mean, like, being on stage, it absolutely is, and you kind of open yourself up to that. You're going to get all of it. You're going to get the good and the really, really bad, apparently. So, but all right,
number 3.
In what appears to be the first time ever, researchers are using a video game to help adults exercise their minds to stave off dementia. Adults who went through this quote-unquote training program that centers around a brain training game have lived longer spans without any signs of cognitive or memory loss. I'm pulling a lot of these words from the article from Business Insider, so credit where it's due. But next time your mom says games will rot your brain, Now you know how to respond, I guess. But the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in Toronto unveiled this information from the ACTIVE. That's an acronym, by the way, that I'll get to as soon as my prompter scrolls up here a second. But it's the Advanced Cognitive Training for Independent and Vital Elderly. And what they've done is created a very simple video game that they used to test about 300 test subjects in different, control groups, like one that didn't actually play, one that played, and then like the full game, and then one played that kind of like a certain set of parameters around this game. And what they found starting in 1998 and then 10 years later was that there were like very drastic percentage differences between the people that played it and that didn't, and how their cognitive and memory functions were sharper than, say, people who hadn't played at all. You know what I mean? So screw you, mom and dad. Games are good, right? Ultimately, like, this is a good thing.
I have a sneaking speculation that this just has to do with the fact that people are using their cognitive skills more because they're playing video games and not just sitting around. Like, if you just sat there, played games that are like actively problem solving, like a situation, which most games present you with a problem to solve, then it's going to be like a brain exercise. So it's going to help you stay healthier longer than.
So it's no different than doing like the New York Times crossword every day.
I don't know about crosswords. Crosswords get easier the more you do. I feel like because you learn.
So do games. No?
Yes. It's just crossword puzzles. I don't know. I would say yes. Like if you're actively reading, actively like consuming fiction or problem solving in games or doing some kind of work, it keeps you healthier than just sitting there vegging out or something.
So you don't think necessarily that it's just this specific game that is doing the trick. You just think it's the activity, the regiment, the exercise itself.
Yeah, I think it's the exercise of problem solving that probably helps more than just this game specifically.
Okay. All right.
So this is actually kind of an interesting topic. I watched this video, I think it was like earlier this morning, maybe yesterday. So there's like this 80-something-year-old grandmother, Shirley Curry, that plays...
Is she the Skyrim fan? I think I saw that.
Skyrim, yeah.
Yeah.
She's got like 240 episodes on YouTube with it. and I feel like that coupled with... you get better at video games the more you play, but video games are those things like, you build up like a baseline knowledge of how they work and like what mechanics... a
dexterity.
Like how you interact with them. But... new video games are always kind of presenting new things or new twists on things that you're used to before. So you have to like always relearn stuff. And then, that coupled with like the dexterity, so like you're training your hand-eye coordination, you're training your mind, you're thinking strategically if you're combat, you might be solving puzzles if you're trying to like stealth through an area. There's like all of these aspects that come together that I think make them definitely a good tool for keeping active, right? If you're playing like, I don't know, I'm sure there are some games where you could say like that, yeah, they're rotting your brain, but the more complex like open world stuff that makes you play creatively or strategically, I think is definitely something that we'll see more of, like especially as we age, right? We're probably going to be playing video games. I know like I'm going to be on my deathbed with like, my Nintendo handheld, just like waiting to get put out of my
your detachable NX controllers.
I'll be playing like
hand,
Brain Age 27 or something.
Well, so that's the interesting. It's funny you brought up Brain Age because that company Lumosity got like fined $2 million for purporting that they had studies and results saying that their games were actually like quote unquote brain training, and you're sharpening yourself by if you subscribe to our app and all that other stuff. But clearly they turned out not like to be. At least falsified remarks. The results are, up in the air, I guess. But like, well, based on this specific study,
Professor Layton or something.
There you go. Okay,
like a better one.
That's fine. Acceptable. I'll accept it.
Okay.
But here's the inherent problem, though. Like, and it's not necessarily the direction that I thought this was going to go. But when you just talked about open world games, and so how do you balance like the brain training versus the choice paradox?
Oh no!
Full circle, guys. Come on.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you're like 80 years old,
you don't give a fuck anymore. You're just gonna
have nothing to really like do except for play Skyrim. You're probably not super worried about like how you're gonna like get a couple quests in for your night.
Yeah, when you're old like that, you've already learned to live with your choices. So
right. That's part of being an adult is like making a choice and standing by it no matter what.
Taking responsibility for it.
That's right, exactly.
And so they don't have any problem making choices in old games.
It's true.
They're adults. They know how to make choices.
I actually watched that video too, Chris, and like she actually does say verbatim, she's like, I play this game, it's super fun, but I also feel like it keeps my mind sharp. Like she says those words, you know what I mean? So, it's great. We gotta get her on. We gotta get her on StarCraft Universe, dude. Ryan, what are we gonna do about this?
We should get her on the podcast.
There you go.
And we'll get it all around.
Yeah, we need more beta testers. Bring her in.
There you go.
Send her an email, dude.
Absolutely.
Hop on her YouTube channel and hit her up. She's got like 130,000 subscribers too.
I'll get lost in the mix.
It's a numbers game at that point. Whatever. No, fair enough. I think it's a good thing. Like I think the reason I chose this story for the show today is like I'm always kind of eager to jump on the high points of it and the positive points of video games in general, and this definitely came across as one. Like I had a family member that suffered from some pretty hardcore Alzheimer's late in life, and the fact that hey, if I'd been 20 years older and started working in games, maybe I could have made a difference or something like that. But knowing that other people might get some sort of positive result out of that in the future and moving forward as we make better games specifically designed for this particular cause or whatever, like that's a pretty rad thing.
Yeah, I think with video games becoming more mainstream, I think we're going to see a lot less cases of like dementia and Alzheimer's because of these kind of things, because people are going to be doing brain exercises. I mean, if you think about the generations that came before us that suffer from Alzheimer's and stuff, they didn't have as much interaction. They didn't have as many choices at an older age to just...
Other than a New York Times crossword.
Yeah. They'd sit there. They could sit. This is a generalization, of course, but
sure.
They would sit there. They could sit in front of a TV and watch the news or watch a game or read a paper, read a book or something. And probably the people that read books probably have more brain activity than the people who don't, of course. I don't know.
Well, at least you're like actively doing something. You're like they're like
actively
watching TV. It's very uninteractive.
Yeah,
like if a video game is interactive.
But like Chris said, our generation we're going to be playing video games until we die. Like we're going to be exercising our brains in problem solving, hopefully, for a while.
Well, it's like Ryan said. We're playing one right now. Life is a video game.
Yeah,
right there you go. So
every day you go to work, you're going to be firing those synapses that keep your mind going too. I mean, I think the dementia, it happens later in life a lot too, because people stop, they retire, they quit working, and everything kind of, if you don't use it, you lose it. Everything goes into shutdown mode. Your body sort of tricks your mind into thinking that you're done.
Are you trying to start like an old person Thunderdome? Like if you're retired, like you gotta you gotta keep active somehow. So gladiatorial combat.
I don't know. Would you? Do you have any family suffering from Alzheimer's anymore?
I did not at the moment, but people worry that stuff is hereditary. So
yeah, no, I guess
I got something to look forward to, but I won't remember it. So
were you really close to that person?
I was. Yeah, I was.
Do you think if you enabled them to play video games, that would help? Like, I don't know, on their phone or something, they played some Candy Crush once in a while.
This was like the pre-cell phone era.
Your brain, dude.
Yeah, Candy Crush and your teeth, not for nothing.
Yeah, so Pokemon Go.
Right, there you go. I don't know. I wish that's what I was kind of saying. I wish there was kind of like a 20-year differential here, and I wish I could kind of go back and do like a Rick and Morty like portal jump and go back and give her a smartphone and be like, check this out. You know what I mean? Like here's Pokemon Go. Here's something, or here's an Xbox controller and a PC. Be like, what's up, Grandma? Play some fucking Skyrim. What's up? You know what I mean? Like,
I just imagine Grandma's Boy where he has his grandma playing.
Right. And she gets into it. Like the demon starts ripping people in half, and she's like, "Oh, this is really interesting."
Yeah.
Like
those are drug dealers.
Yeah. Exactly. If I could do it differently, that would have been cool. But at the same time, like, she was also of a generation where like she was probably convinced that TV and video games were, destroying the youth. You know what I mean? Like those fucking Beatles, like they're ruining everything, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, you're kind of about that with certain issues now also. I mean,
well, sure. Yeah. You get like Ryan was smart to point out, like the older you get, you kind of shut down. You get like you set in your ways to a certain extent, and like retirement brings that on at an even faster pace. You know what I mean? So I'm a firm believer that beer should be craft and not piss, but what are you going to do? That's how I feel about things, But I think you're right. Like by the time we're old, we're still going to be playing games, but hopefully there isn't some other stupid, degenerative disease that we have to combat with, like.
Well, we're gonna have other issues to deal with when we're old,
like global warming and all that other shit.
And robots, killer robots,
right. and artificial intelligence,
the singularity. I mean, these things are coming, and we don't have time to worry about dementia anymore.
Nuclear fallout.
I got a bitch in my car because it drives itself and it made a left turn from a right hand lane. It was
oh my god,
disaster.
That's gonna be it, dude. We're gonna have these self-driving cars, so we're not gonna have to drive anymore. So we're actually all gonna forget how to drive.
We're gonna forget where things are.
When the computer crashes, we're all gonna like blow up in a fireball and die.
It's true. It's true.
What's the point of living without a computer, though? So
Well, we have like one on us at all times.
Dementia will be the least of our worries.
Yeah. We're just gonna
hope you get dementia.
Oh my god! I just want to forget all this. Yeah. They give it out like they give out dementia as like a shot. Like you hit 65, you retire. Like good, now you can forget all the bullshit that you went through your whole life. Like just live as a vegetable. It's fine. And, they just hand that shit out. It'll be great.
Oh, we're all going to hell.
Sometimes I wonder what I'd be like with dementia. Like if I would really even care or something. Would I be one of those angry Alzheimer's patients?
Dementia's fine for the person who has it. Although there are those moments where like they get frustrated because they have those moments of clarity and then it's not so great. But
you realize that.
But it's even more. It's hard for the people around it that have to deal with it too. You know what I mean? It sucks all around. So yay for video games for helping fight the problem, right? Ultimately.
I'm pretty sure dementia becomes pretty painful in the later stages, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because like body functions like your brain starts to forget how to like function normally, like bodily functions and shit like that. Like it gets pretty bad. So you're not wrong in that respect for sure.
Maybe not. Maybe a little dementia and then die from a nuclear explosion or something.
Right, a meteor or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we can chalk it up like +1 to video games for helping to solve more of the world's problems.
For now, until next week when they are causing more problems. But yeah, that's exactly.
Sure.
Yeah,
I just think
it depends on the game, but
that too.
All right.
Yeah. All right, lightning round, everybody. We're gonna move right on. All right, panel, it's time. Here's how it works. We're going to take 2 quick topics, give each member of the panel a minute to chime in, uninterrupted for the most part. And at the end of each minute, we will award the panelist a quantity of some type of points based on nothing in particular. Our distinguished guest, Ryan, will be in charge of awarding me points for my respective minutes, but we'll get to that in a second. So topic the first. Stranger Things is pretty great, right? I don't know. Some of you may not have seen it. Some of you probably have. But we'll try and keep it spoiler-free for the most part. Hitting all the right notes for that Stephen King, Spielberg / 80s nostalgia. Polygon article makes the argument that D&D Dungeons & Dragons, is perhaps the star of the show. However, from the opening scenes of the first episode to the way the kids refer to certain supernatural elements as if they were quoting lines from a Dungeon Master's Guide or a player's manual, we're going to take a minute and you're all going to tell me why it gets it right or whether other shows fail to get the vibe of D&D, or if you were going to do it, how you would do it. Have you watched Stranger Things? And if this makes sense to you, great. If not, then tell me what does or doesn't about it. All right? So, Mr. Morris, do me a favor. Since you suggested this article for this show, I want you to tell me how you would address this with 60 seconds.
Oh my god. Well, can I pass? Can I be next? I wanted to put more thought into this. Now I feel like scared because I'm on the spot.
All right. I tell you what.
You picked this?
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know. He's embarrassing himself, Ryan. Ryan, shame him. Ryan, shame him. No, it's
I can't. I haven't seen it.
Okay, well,
I can't say anything.
Well, that's fine. But I think the general attitude is that, like, as D&D becomes more and more prevalent and becomes like a kind of like a cultural touchstone, especially as nerd culture kind of comes back into the limelight and to the forefront, what Stranger Things does in the opening scene is it's a bunch of 10, 12-year-old kids hanging out playing Dungeons and Dragons in 1983, which is kind of a throwback even for me, but I definitely remember what the 80s were like, and it's a very good representation of what that was like. You know what I mean? So what I'm curious is, like, we've seen other things try and do it. We've seen stupid movies that I'm going to forget the names of now that I'm on the spot, but people have tried to take this kind of thing and run with it. We've seen LARPing, kind of come out and as an offshoot of this. We've seen every role-playing game ever really become an offshoot of, it was Lord of the Rings, then Dungeons & Dragons, and then everything else. You know what I mean? So what makes Dungeons & Dragons relevant? What makes it interesting? What makes it, like, if you're going to do this nostalgic, trip back to the 80s or insert demographic here, why did Stranger Things... Chris, you watched it, right?
Yeah, so I guess it's cool because it's very authentic, and they don't go out of their way to make it seem nerdier than it already is, and they don't go out of their way to make it seem more like fantastical than it is. When you see a lot of D&D stuff in media, like in specifically like movies and TV shows, right? It almost hits this level of corniness that is so bad that you really are not left wondering why no one else gets into it. And I think when you include it in something like Stranger Things as part of a throwback to 80s nostalgia, it actually makes it more like palatable, even to the point where it's like someone that might be really into the show might be like, oh, so this is kind of like what D&D is like. I had all these preconceived notions about what D&D was like, but this actually is nothing like what I expected, and might be interested in checking it out. So I guess stuff that sort of respects the source material is the way that I would do it if I were going to put it into a TV show or a movie, and that's what Stranger Things kind of really nailed.
Yeah, for multiple aspects, not just the D&D thing. I think you're right, and I'm going to award you one copy of the unwritten, or at least lesser known autobiography of Gary Gygax, one of the original creators.
Thank you very much.
There you go, buddy. Congratulations. It was a good minute. I think you're right. I think you hit it right on the head. It's all about, like, making it appeal to people that may not otherwise know what the hell is up with it. You know what I mean? And I think they did a good job with that. But Mr. Golish, having not watched
Hey, how's it going?
Stranger Things, I'm curious to see how you would, if you were going to portray Dungeons & Dragons in a movie or a television show and make it try to appeal to a wider audience, how would you do it?
I guess I'll start with the first occurrence of Dungeons & Dragons in a TV show that I can think of was in the X-Files, was the one episode where we even went to the PAX, the Dev PAX
yes, we did.
Panel, where the keynote guy was talking about some way he was involved in that X-Files episode where they talked about Dungeons & Dragons, and it was pretty much just like some nerd, like, oh, he rolled a dice or something. I can't remember how it went at all.
No, but you keep going. Yeah. Keep going.
But if I were to actually portray it, more recently I would like to do it how Dan Harmon did it in Community, where one episode, it's one of the best episodes of Community. I can't even think what it's called, but it was great. Fat Neil and
but Chevy Chase was literally an asshole. Like,
it was. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, it's just when I think of D&D, it's straight role playing. Like it's this it's role playing at its core. It's exactly what it is. So I don't know.
I'm going to award you a subscription to CISO, which has which is that stupid new comedy app that has Harmon Quest, which is Dan Harmon playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends, and they animate some of it, and that
That's
sounds like
surprisingly
it sounds like I'm
comfortable.
shilling for this fucking dumb show, which is probably not dumb. It's probably actually pretty great. But there you go, Nick. That's your minute reward.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Ryan, if you would be so kind. The great thing about the lightning round here is that you can either stay on topic or you can use it as you see fit. But I am curious to hear, having enlightened me into the fact that you have not seen Stranger Things, I am curious about how maybe Dungeons and Dragons has been portrayed in movies and television that you have seen, and how it may or may not be affecting your design decisions, or how you wish to portray certain elements that you may or not be aware of that you're using within SCU or whatever. You have 60 seconds. I'm very curious to see how you're going to use it.
Oh God. Okay. Well, yeah. All role-playing games pretty much go back into the D&D origin. I mean, we are effectively, as game designers, dungeon masters that are creating a campaign for people to experience in a digital world. So D&D was very influential for me as far as design goes. Especially from a balance perspective, we still use so much from D&D in combat. Random number generation, critical hits. Everything. You see games like FTL, where FTL is sort of a big D&D experience in a spaceship. I hope that that was a decent answer.
I think it was. I think it was.
The whole time you guys were talking, I was thinking about the '80s and how kind of conservative America was portraying it as devil worship, and how it would be interesting to have a show that was based on the older generation, back when D&D first came out, and kids that were actually playing it, just kind of enjoying themselves and getting together to have a social time. Sort of like, it's kind of like Pokemon Go right now.
Exactly. That's a great reference. So here's my award to you, sir. Is our episode, the episode of Cheat Codes Podcast 101, when we talked with Cliff Blazinski specifically about what playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s was like, and all the devil worship, association and all of that. I'd like to award that to you as your gift.
You're awarding him an episode? How does that even work?
I don't. Nothing about this lightning round episode works at all. But it's like whose line is it anyway? We have fun with it. It's all good.
I award you no points and may God have mercy.
There are so many times when I want to just say that Billy Madison lines, like every time we do this show. All right, so mine, I guess I got a minute here. Ryan, you will award me points after my 60 seconds, which will start right now. So here's the cool thing about Stranger Things. Not only does it hit all the right notes, it also uses all the things that maybe 80 shows like or movies like Goonies or any Stephen King novel would have probably been better off for in hindsight, I guess, and using more of a Dungeons and Dragons thing. What Stranger Things does, and I'm not going to spoil anything, is that, and the article points out as well, is that Dungeons and Dragons becomes this whole kind of backbone, because the way they start talking about some of the supernatural elements of the show is that like they're constantly referencing like a dungeon master's guide or a player's manual, talking about the Veil of Shadows and all this other stuff, like from these like Forgotten Realms based D&D modules, and it becomes kind of like this like through thread that like lets anybody who knows like feel like they're in on a joke, but it also lets people who don't know kind of just like be curious, and that's how like that's how you grow an audience. That's how you cultivate one that exists already based on the stuff you're referencing, which is exactly what Stranger Things does really well. But it also is capitalizing on kind of this resurgence of nerddom, and I don't know. Everybody that has not seen it should go watch it because it's fantastic. So
I heard good things.
I went over.
Nice.
I went over, but I don't know. What do I get, Ryan?
I award you Lieutenant Backer status for StarCraft Universe if you decide to come and play.
Oh boy.
Which means you get all the rewards that are on our Indiegogo right now for that.
That's
Wow, nice.
that feels like an actual reward, and I'm not sure how to respect that. I'm not sure how to respect because nothing I give out here is actually a real reward. So
I give you an 11 on a D20 roll.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you. That's very generous. All right, so we're gonna do this one more time for the second lightning round topic. For this one, you're gonna tell me the year you were born. It's something a little bit different this time. The year that you were born, and I'm going to tell you the most popular game of that year, and you'll have a minute to tell me if you've ever ended up playing that game or how you honestly feel about it. If you hate it, tell me why. If you love it, awesome. If you want to tell me what game or series you would have been a better fit for you, then so be it. I am genuinely kind of curious about this, and it was also a really shitty news week, so I had to dig really deep for a decent ending topic here. Bare bones honesty, straight up, guys. But I'm trying to bring up the article right now so that I have my reference point. Mr. Morris, I'm going to start.
Yes.
I'm going to start with you again.
All right. So 1987.
1987, based on the article from Popular Mechanics, Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Possibly the worst Zelda game ever made, but I'll let you talk about that.
Was this the side-scrolling one?
Yeah, that's the yeah.
Wasn't it just called Link? Or was it Zelda?
They all have like
The
full on,
Adventure of
colon.
Link.
Yeah.
The Adventure of Link or something, yeah.
All right, you got 60 seconds, Chris. Go for it.
Okay, I did not play this Zelda. The first Zelda that I played, I think, was actually A Link to the Past, which came out in 1991,
Okay.
and that was probably by far the superior game. Just even looking at screenshots of Zelda 2, I anticipate that I would not have enjoyed it. So I guess 1987 was kind of a bust for me in video games.
Well, fair enough. All right.
Womp womp.
I award you one copy
Oh, God.
of Zelda 2.
God damn it.
Well, you're a designer. You need to learn, from other people's mistakes, right? Isn't that a reasonable thing? All right.
I guess, except like me rolling up and being like, "Yo, Miyamoto, you made some mistakes, dog." Probably not gonna do that.
Look, I'm sure he made mistakes too, and he'd be happy to tell you what he learned from them at the very least.
Fair enough.
All right, Mr. Golish.
Hey. How's it going?
Tell me what year you were born.
85.
85.
I know the answer already.
Do you?
Yeah.
What's the answer?
You told me this already. It was Super Mario Brothers.
It is Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES. You're going to have 30 seconds to tell me exactly how you feel about it, starting now.
All right. So I guess the memory I have about this game is the babysitters that lived next door to us when we were growing up, me and my sister, they had an NES, and we used to play that game on there. We also played some car game. I can't remember.
Ridge Racer?
I don't think it was Ridge Racer, but it was. I can't even remember if it was the 80s when I actually played this on their NES, because I can't remember when I was being babysat by these two. But it was cool. I was like, oh, video games are a thing. My dad was really into computers, so I played computer games. I didn't have a console at home until a few years later, when I ended up getting a Sega Genesis, which I got Sonic on, which is in many ways superior to Mario because he goes faster.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. And the most important thing is you could go backwards on the screen instead of just in one direction. Like Super Mario Brothers, you can only go one direction. What's up with that? Come on.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to award you a one-way sign from down the block. I'm just going to tear it off of a post and give it to you.
Next thing you're going to tell me is the clouds are the same sprite as my bushes.
That's Super Mario 3, but that's fine. That's fine. It's acceptable. I'm going to take the next minute, and then Ryan, you will have the last one to end the episode.
All right.
I was born in 1982, and thank goodness, because that's where this article started. And the game was Pitfall. Yes, I have played Pitfall on Atari, and it is. It's been redone. The original, however, is kind of a hot mess. Although it does kind of incorporate some of the early platform mechanics that we all still rely on to this day. It probably holds some sort of very interesting place in someone's heart, but certainly not mine. And obviously, very much like everybody else, we didn't play or have access to these games until a few years later. I'm not sure I actually ever owned an Atari. Haven't played one. My first console was an NES, and that was in like '86 or something. It was like a 4 or 5 year old, and yeah, like my Super Mario memories are just as fond as my Duck Hunt memories were because they came on the same fucking cartridge with the real NES gun, which was gray and not orange. Orange guns is a lie. Gray guns are real.
Gray and red or something. Gray, red.
Yeah,
black.
yeah. But Pitfall, great. I'm happy. I'm happy that it came out in 1982. Awesome. I'm done.
Good.
Yeah. I was born in 85, but I was conceived in 84, so we'll go with that since
you got to award him
Nick was
points
85.
first, though.
Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, can I need another subscription to the SCU real quick.
I award you an alligator inside of a pond.
Well done. Well
Some
done.
Vines over it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you want to go? Do you want 84 just to be different than Nick here? Is that
Yeah,
right?
we'll do that.
Oh well, guess what? It's Duck Hunt. So there you go.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh man,
Nice.
that's a good one.
a great game. That fucking dog, though, man.
Yeah, you have 60 seconds to tell me all about that dog.
That dog. They need to remake that game with like all the weapons from Call of Duty,
Nice.
and allow you to shoot the dog.
Just make it a carnival game. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's a little morbid. No, I mean, what do you say about Duck Hunt? It's basically the Flappy Bird of 1984. It's pretty simple. You just shot a bunch of ducks that flew up in the air, and the dog laughed at you, and you couldn't shoot them. And then you took that out and you played Super Mario. So.
That's exactly how Duck Hunt went.
I think you may have just named the episode by saying 1984 Flappy Bird. That's pretty good. I got to give it's a DeLorean with supercharged engine, I guess, or something. It's that great. It's a quality mashup reference right there. I got to give it to you.
So would you say your favorite memory of Duck Hunt was taking it out and playing Super Mario Brothers instead? That's what I got from that minute.
Taking it out, putting it under your shirt, blowing on it, and then putting it back in to get it to work.
Duck Hunt came with that ski shot game too, didn't it?
Oh,
Duck Hunt came packaged with...
with like Mario.
Oh, there was a mode in Duck Hunt, you mean?
There was another game inside of it. It's called Skeet Shot. It was light gun also, so it was probably made by the same people. But
Okay.
I actually think I enjoyed skeet shooting a little bit more than Duck Hunt because, yeah, I mean, it was just nobody laughed at you in
there's
skeet
no
shooting.
duck that or no.
So maybe we need to call this episode Skeet 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 then. Maybe. No?
Maybe.
That's horrible reference.
No.
Sorry, guys. Fair enough.
Imagine playing a game nowadays where if you lose or you fail, a big like "you suck" just appears on the screen.
What do you mean, like
Just tells
Dark
you-
Souls, where it just tells you died? Which is essentially, Dark Souls is essentially the fucking Duck Hunt dog, straight up.
Yeah, but the duck dog laughs at you.
At least Dark Souls tries to like be very indifferent about your death. It's just informing you that you are dead.
Yeah, it's very objective, in that regard.
You suck. Play the tutorial.
All right, fair enough. Well done, everyone, for a quality lightning round. We've done it. Episode 105 is a wrap. Ryan, thanks, man, for being here. We really appreciate it. Best of luck with SCU. Hopefully, we're going to be seeing some, I don't know, maybe alpha, beta coming soon. Yeah, maybe.
Open beta's out now. You can play it on the StarCraft 2 arcade.
Snap. All right, there
Oh,
you
snap.
go.
Support us on Indiegogo if you want.
There you go. Any other contact deets or things you want to plug before we move on?
Yeah, Facebook. Just search for StarCraft Universe. Something should pop up. We'll be around.
All right, Ryan Winzen, everybody. Thank you, man, very much for coming on short notice and helping us out with the episode, man. We really appreciate it. So thank you very
Thanks for having
much.
me. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
All right.
Thank you for being here, dear listener, and know that we're always curious to hear what you think, so hit us up, cheatcodespodcast.com, on Facebook and Twitter, right after you go and check out StarCraft Universe, or SCU, seeing as how Blizzard has some contention with the StarCraft thing, but it's not important. You can get in on the conversation that way. That'll do it for us for now. Make sure to check out the Patreon page. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. So if you're into the show, help us out. We've got behind-the-scenes episodes, game nights on Steam, you name it. Check out the page for all the rewards. And thanks to everyone who's jumped on board so far. We'll make sure to see you next week. 'Tis only a flesh wound. We'll see you guys. Thanks very much, everybody.
She turned me into a newt.